Doing well and doing good is Ajay Piramal's philosophy, centred in values that drive both his business and personal life. One of India's leading industrialists and philanthropists, Ajay is Piramal's chair, leading a multi-billion-dollar business that stretches from pharmaceuticals to financial services. Its philanthropic arm, the Piramal Foundation, has been operating for 15 years and has spearheaded innovations in education, health, water and the social ecosystem, impacting over 130 million lives right across India. It's an incredible story which Ajay will be sharing at the Asian Venture Philanthropy Network annual conference in Malaysia later on this month. Ajay Piramal joins us now. It's wonderful to have you with us, Ajay. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little more about the Piramal Foundation and the values behind it that drive your giving philosophy.
The purpose of our group, whether it's in business or in the foundation, is doing well and doing good and making a positive difference to the world around us. So why did we choose this sentence? There was a lot of thought that was given. We had a brainstorming and we looked at all the work that we are doing. The inspiration for this, the foundation, really comes for these lines from the Bhagavad Gita, which is our most sacred text for all of us in Hindus, which says that we all are mere instruments for the wealth that has been given to us. All the resources have been provided to us by the Lord, and we are just mere instruments. And our role is to see that we can do the best with that. And think of it. Why is it that we are so privileged? I look at myself or I look at all the people working with us. We are much more privileged than the underprivileged people, if I may say. We've been born in a good family, we've got education, we've got wealth, we've got opportunities to create wealth, and we were born with a lot of this, whereas others have come up, some of them in India live on the streets, and therefore it's our duty to give back to them. And that is doing good. But you can't do good unless you do well as well, because as we all know, it is the wealth that we create can help us to do good. And therefore, in our business as well, if we don't perform well, we will not be able to do good. And every business also has to have good. So let me say the business that we're in, let's say financial services. We provide loans to people who would otherwise not get loans, and debt makes them, again, at reasonable rates, so that they can, have a good living, they can have a house to make, they can do their profession. Similarly, in pharmaceuticals, we try and meet the unmet medical needs of people. So that's as far as business is concerned. As far as the foundation is concerned, if we don't perform well, if we don't measure the impact that we are doing, it'll have, then we're just going to waste our money and resources. So that's how we look at doing well, doing good, and making a difference.
You mentioned family, Ajay. Clearly, philanthropy is a family legacy. Tell us a little bit about the values you inherited from your grandfather and how you have passed them on to your own children.
So my grandfather came from with very, very he was not as privileged as we are, or he hardly had a business, but yet, and he had a very low income and no wealth, but yet he was the one who was born and brought up in a village, a small village in Rajasthan in India, and moved to Mumbai. When he made even a little money, a large proportion of that money he gave and started first school in Rajasthan and this was in the early 1900s, at the time when, there was a lot of distinction on caste basis in India. So the first school he started and the first student that he had was somebody who was from the lowest caste, to say that everybody deserves education. Similarly, when he also started a girls' school, again, you have to recognize that in Rajasthan, girls were, always looked upon as second-class citizens. And therefore, he said education is important. So if a person at that time with such limited means could start or could start a philanthropic activity, and then my father continued it, and that's how I have done it. And I'm happy to say that my children, and I have now 4 grandchildren, they are also interested, or we're making them more and more interested in this.
Now, Ajay, this is also a very spiritual calling for you. Can you tell us a little bit about the tenets of the Bhagavad Gita which guides you?
So the first tenets of the Bhagavad Gita, as I said, is to have that we are mere instruments of, which have been the wealth has given to us by the Lord, which I explained in the first part of the interview. The second tenet that we have is that you do not, we have recycled the birth does not, we live many births, and every action of ours, there is a reaction to it. So everything good you do will have a reaction, and therefore in the future, as you continue to live this life and into your next life, whatever good you do, there will be an impact on with it. And therefore I look at it as a selfish point of view. The third part of the Bhagavad Gita is that you give something with seva bhav, or what we call compassion. When you give something, you give it not because you think you are doing a favor, but because you do it out of compassion, out of love. So, like when a mother, the classic case of a mother feeding her child, when the mother is feeding her child, she does not think that it's a favor, but she gives it out of love. So, how can we give things out of love? And well, there are many more, but the fourth is, of course, that all of us are actually part of one Lord, the divinity in us, in each of us, wherever we are in the world. We are connected like pearls are connected to through a string. The divinity is the string that goes through all of us, which is common.
Now, Ajay, you're opening the AVPN conference in Malaysia to talk about being bold in philanthropy. What do you want the attendees to take away from your address?
I just wanted to take away that if we set up a vision, all of us collectively can really achieve what look as really big, hairy, and audacious goals. And that there is a Asian way of doing things, of philanthropy, of making a difference, which is different from what the West has. A lot of the West goals, they've achieved a lot, but their environment, their circumstances were different. But how we can together work and see that how the world and this part of Asia can also progress.
Now, Ajay, of the many causes and social impact outcomes you've been involved in over time, what are some of those that you are most proud of?
So, one of the things that even I didn't speak about it, our Gita talks about, is that you have to be humble. Humility is the core, because so I'm not proud of anything, but I'm really satisfied with some of the things that we have done. So our foundation, for example, started 15 years ago in recruiting young graduates or postgraduates to do a 2-year fellowship, which we call the Gandhi Fellowship, where we train them so that they can become better individuals, they can become better leaders serving society. And I'm happy to say that we started with 11 per year. Now we have almost 600 per year, which we take in graduates and postgraduates from some of the best institutes in the country, as well as, and we train them for 2 years, as I said. And they've made a big difference. Many of them have started big NGOs. They're working in corporates and governments and making a difference. That's one. The second is a fellowship which we have called for women. These are underprivileged women, called the Karuna Fellowship. These are underprivileged women who we have been able to again train them and make a better living for themselves. So that these are just one thing. Besides on education, Prime Minister of India had identified what are aspirational districts, or the 112 districts where 100 million people live, which were the most underdeveloped in the country. We started working with them in the area of education, in the area of health, and I'm happy to say that when there were independent assessments done of the impact of our education, 4 out of the 10 top districts were those where we had worked in terms of education. And in terms of health, 3 out of the top 10 of the 112 we had worked in. So that's where our foundation was making a difference. So today, as you said, what gives me great satisfaction is that we are working in the most challenging environments, and almost 113 million people have been impacted by the work that we are doing. And we are doing this in partnership with governments of the national government, of the 27 state governments, more than 100 partnerships with global foundations, with about 1,100 small NGOs on the ground, and involving several hundred thousands of youth. So that gives me some satisfaction that we are making some difference in the world around us.
Which is absolutely wonderful. Congratulations for all that you've achieved, Ajay, and we really do appreciate your time chatting to us today.
Thank you.
Ajay Piramal with us there, Chairman of the Piramal Group.